Your stories are boring. Well, damn. Tell us how you really feel, girl. I'm not saying this to be mean. I'm saying it because it's a huge problem for you and for your brand. Boring stories don't get read in books or articles, left unread. They don't get listened to in a presentation. I'd rather be checking my emails as listening to this boring person. Child. They're scrolled past on Substack. Boring long form videos will be clicked away from in the New York minute with a quickness. And let's not even talk about boring short form. The swipe away is dang near instant. So, whether you are telling boring stories in your novel, in your content, or in your nonfiction thought leadership book, you've got to fix your boring stories stat. And you know me, baby. That's exactly what I'm about to do in this video. I'm Denise Renee, your business book bestie. I help executives and entrepreneurs like you write books that tell your story, shares your frameworks, and grows your brand. These are some of the clients I've worked with as a ghostwriter, editor, or writing coach. Check out testimonials and learn how I can help you at writingwithdeniserenee.com. Hey, business book besties. What up? Now, I've gone ahead and placed timestamps down below and in the description box to help you navigate this video, along with links to other helpful videos and blog articles on my website that complement what we're talking about here today. Now, from time to time, my intrusive thoughts can butt in. What? Obama had his anger translator, Luther. Denise Renee's got me, and a black girl from the Bronx who stay ready so she ain't gots to get ready. Right? So if we're Gucci, go ahead and like this video and subscribe to the channel. And if you want me to notify you whenever I publish new videos, podcasts, episodes, or blog articles about writing nonfiction thought leadership business books, go to writingwithdeniserenee.com, scroll to the bottom into your email, and hit sign up. You'll want to receive my weekly newsletter because how often I post on this channel has changed. And trust me, if I'm not posting long form content here, I'm posting it someplace else. So don't miss out. Head over to writingwithdeniserenee.com, scroll down to the bottom, enter your email address, and click sign up. And I'll see you next Monday morning at 5 a.m. Eastern. Okay, so housekeeping over. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you, number one, the most subtle culprit of boring stories. Number two, I'll be sharing an example from an editorial assessment that I recently did with a client. Number three, I'm going to share an example from a popular animated TV show that had me bored within the first 5 minutes. Number four, I'm going to talk about what proper emotional payoff looks like. And number five, I'm going to show you how to give your audience emotionally satisfying stories. All right, so let's get into the number one most subtle, sneaky little culprit of boring stories. Now, there are multiple factors that could contribute to having a boring story. Now, as I've shared in a lot of my videos about storytelling, there are 5 C's to every good story. Do you know what they are? You paying attention? It's character, care, context, challenge or conflict, and conclusion. Not having one or more of these elements in your story can leave it lopsided and borderline, if not 100% boring to read, watch, or listen to. But the sneakiest, most subtle culprit of boring stories is not on that list. Not directly, anyway. But not having everything on that list will lead to this culprit. And that culprit is not having a good emotional payoff. Now, every story has some sort of emotional arc or some sort of journey that the main character is going on. It doesn't matter whether you're watching a blockbuster movie, reading a hidden gem of a novel, or listening to a memoir on audiobook. Or if you're telling a small little story that takes up maybe half a page in your thought leadership book, doesn't matter. If that emotional arc does not come to a satisfactory conclusion, your audience will feel gypped. They'll feel mad. They'll be pissed. They'll be ready to throw tomatoes. It tends to be very obvious with things such as movies or novels, fictional stories, but a little bit harder to spot in nonfiction business books or where you're telling your own personal story and you are the expert. You are the one sharing your experience and you're telling your story as a part of sharing your principles or sharing what happened to you or how you overcame something. It's not only the what of your story that has to be very powerful, it also has to be the how. How you tell the story is significant and impactful. And if you do it right, it's going to give you that emotional payoff that actually helps you sell you to your listener or reader and helps you sell whatever it is that you offer, whatever products, services, or ideas that you offer or are trying to get people to buy into. So every emotional arc needs to have what I call an earned emotional payoff. So, what is an emotional payoff? Don't worry, that wasn't a pop quiz. This is a new term for the channel, so she's about to break it down for you, all right? An emotional payoff is the moment in the story where a scene lands with the full emotional weight. There's either some kind of bombshell revelation, a moment of transformation, or relief from tension that's been building throughout the story. Now, there could be a big emotional payoff at the end of a book or at the end of a movie. But if you're telling smaller stories throughout, there are emotional payoffs that happen within those smaller stories or at different moments and different beats in your novel, movie, or memoir or thought leadership book. No matter where that emotional weight should land, if you miss it, oh boy, it's not good. So, fumbling emotional payoffs are a silent killer of many stories. So, recently, I had an editorial assessment with one of my returning clients, who is a fiction writer. We're about to get into a multi month engagement of revising and editing her next novel. So, I gave her her editorial assessment, and then we had a live session where we reviewed the findings and are setting the direction for our full on editing engagement. I pointed out to her that in some spots in the book, there were places where the emotional payoff just landed flat. And those are the things that we really need to work on so that the book is nice and juicy all the way throughout, so that the reader can feel like they're still invested in the story. Because not everybody has the mental discipline to finish a story that they've started. If they feel like something's off or they're bored in the middle or towards the beginning, they're going to put that book down and never pick it up again. We don't want that. So, although I'm often talking about writing nonfiction books, I do work with novelists. And something that's so important to note is that storytelling is storytelling no matter the medium, no matter the genre. So, if you're working on a manuscript, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, and you want to get a professional editor's opinion about where your manuscript currently is and what you can do to really make it shine and take it to the next level, then I encourage you to get an editorial assessment with me. Visit writingwithdeniserenee.com/assessment to learn more and to get started. You ain't even got to worry about it. You know the link is in the description. Now, because my client's project is a work in progress, I'm not going to share any excerpts from her book. But I can share an example from a popular TV show and show you exactly what fumbling emotional payoff can look like. Don't worry, we're going to come back to my client's editorial assessment in part 4. But for right now, part 3, you're going to excuse me because I am about to get a little bit passionate up in here. Okay? Well, hello. Have you liked this video and subscribed to the channel yet? I'll wait. Oh, okay, you did? All right, cool. All right, girl, come on back. They ready for you now. My 15-year-old son, who every now and then likes to video bomb while I'm recording. Mhm. He often introduces me to new TV shows and movies. Now, when it's something he's already vetted, I definitely say he has introduced me to some bangers. But recently, he heard his friends talking about a particular show on Amazon Prime and hadn't watched it yet. So he said, hey, let's watch it together. Unvetted. So what had happened was Baby, let me tell you, I was mad within the first 5 minutes. So the show is called Invincible. I gotta tell you, the first 2 minutes, I was hooked. I was in there. It was great. It was excellent. They drew me in right away because there were two guards standing outside of what looked like, the White House, because this is an animated show. So there are these two guards. One is a dad, and he's talking about how his son, they're getting ready to take him to college, and the son had been going down the wrong road, but he made a turnaround and whatever. Da, da, da. So the two guys are talking, and I was so already interested, and I'm feeling all hopeful for the boy. All right. They instantly sucked me in with character, with some context, and they got me caring about the young man immediately. I was also concerned. I'm like, they're outside guarding the White House, and this is a nice peaceful scene. Oh, child, I know in 2.2 seconds, there's about to be a fight. There's about to be a bomb. There's about to be attack. There's about to be something, child. So said, so done. So now we get the villains. They pop up, literally pop up out of the ground, and they're starting to wreak havoc. And so I'm like, oh no, what's going to happen to our guard and our son? He's got to get home to his son. I mean, they had me caring. And then the heroes started showing up. And that's when I got mad and bored at the same time. The first thing that ticked me off was that a lot of the heroes, you could basically see other similar heroes in other big comic book franchises. You have the big two, Marvel and DC. So there were just heroes that just looked like other heroes you've already seen before. A speedster, someone with super strength, someone who could fly. I was like, "Ugh, God, can you give me other types of superheroes, please, kindly, and thank you?" Ugh. Originality, people, originality. But anyway, while that was a creative disappointment for me, let's get to how they fumbled emotional payoff. And also, there was like pacing issues too that I was just like, this is. But anyway, so one of the heroes was this like stately, very Superman esque type character. And so he has a family. So you see him after the battle, he flies home and you see his wife and you see his son. Long story short, this guy is from another planet. Superman much? And everybody there has all this super strength and different powers. And when they get to a certain age, they go off to other planets. And it just so happens that they look like humans. So, of course, they blend in. But they go off to other planets and they lend their help, however they can help. So you see his young son being very excited. He's looking to become a hero just like his dad. We see him face off with a bully at school, and he, wasn't able to fight back or anything like that from the day before. Now, after this big old conversation, and dad's like, "Don't worry, son, your powers will be coming soon." Next scene, we see the young boy at his job. So he's taking out the trash. I think he worked at like some pizza place, chicken spot, whatever. So he's taking out the trash to the dumpster. He takes the first big trash bag and tosses it into, those big kind of dumpsters. Okay, no problem. It goes in like a basketball. The next big bag that he picks up, he tosses and it hurls out into space. Am I supposed to believe that? And just like that, he got his powers. That was too easy. Boo, boo. Tomatoes, tomatoes, tomatoes. Boo. Wah, wah. He throws something else or pushes something else, whatever, and he's all of a sudden super strong. Like it was just flip a light switch. Add insult to my injury. He goes home and he goes to the top of his roof. He goes outside of his bedroom, it's on the second floor, and he jumps up and the boy can fly. When you do that? I was so bored. Because how do you just go from 1 second, oh, I want to be just like your dad. I can't wait until, I get my powers and da da da. And then all of a sudden, click, powers? Poor emotional payoff. It was also anticlimactic. Now, I will at least say this. He did have trouble landing. Poor baby. But yeah, then we get this whole montage with him and the father trying to train him and yada yada blah blah. He goes to get a suit and da 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 da. All of a sudden, you get powers, you get 1 day of training, and you get a super suit and a secret identity to go start fighting crime. It was also such a poor execution, and it felt like they were just trying to rush through some plot points because they were trying to set something else up for the end. Now, if you want to go and see this for yourself, of course, if you have Prime, it's called Invincible. Warning, big warning. At the end, there is an intense, graphic, violent scene, and it like show even though it's animated, it shows blood. It's very gory. If you do not like that type of content, I don't like that type of content. I would say when you hear the police call, whatever would happen, and all the super people gather, turn it off. Okay, turn it off. But if you want to watch it, I just want to let you know in case that's not the type of content you want to engage with. But at least you would have seen up to, where I'm talking about, and you would have seen how that just seeing him get his powers like a light switch is very boring. Because a proper emotional payoff doesn't leave you pissed off. Girl, you ain't need me to translate that one for you. So let's talk about what a real good emotional payoff looks like. And I'm going to go back to my client's editorial assessment. One of the things that I did point out for her, it wasn't so much that there were a lot of spaces that had poor emotional payoffs. She actually had some places that had amazing emotional payoff. And I want to describe one of them for you now. And my goal for her was as amazing as that one was, I want to see all the other moments where things should be landing properly. I want all the other moments to hit like this. So, towards the beginning of the book, we see a character, a teenage daughter with her dad, a single solo dad. Unfortunately, her mom had passed away and dad was raising her by herself. But dad was sick and daughter didn't know it. Or she knew, but she didn't know to what extent. They were not living in the greatest of conditions. They had a lot of financial trouble. And one night, dad goes to sleep on the couch. And baby, I was like, oh Lord, Lord, I know what's going to happen. Lord, I need daddy alive, but I feel like daddy's about to go on to meet him. Daddy's about to go on to meet him, ain't it? And Lord, if daddy goes on to meet him, what's going to happen to this baby? I know she's not a baby, she's 16, but Lord, she's still a baby. And we see how they had had a conversation. They had had a tough conversation. Daddy sits down in front of the TV, falls asleep, and daughter discovers him in the morning. And even though I saw that coming from a mile away, I still cried. Now that's a satisfying emotional payoff, son. I still cried like a baby. And you know what I told my client? Well done. Excellent. Make me cry. That was an emotional payoff that landed beautifully. So now that we saw an example of what poor emotional payoff looks like and what a great emotional payoff looks like, let's wrap it all up with a bow and talk about how you can give your audience emotionally satisfying stories. Now, back in the beginning, I reminded you that the 5 C's to every good story are character, care, context, challenge, and conclusion. Now, part of what made that scene from the show Invincible fall flat for me and be so super boring is because even though we had the characters, we had a little bit of care, we had a lot of context, but there was no challenge. His powers just poof showed up. And one of the most important parts of storytelling is to make sure that your reader or your audience member is going along the journey with your main characters, whomever they may be. And especially when it comes to nonfiction business books, where even if you're telling your own story, very likely there's something about you that your audience is relating to. So while you're telling your story, you are not the main character. Your audience is. So, whatever experiences you are going through, you need to bring them through. So, in the case of Invincible, because we never saw any challenge with him getting his powers, it was literally a light switch. That made for a very unsatisfying moment when he got them. It would have been different if, let's say, he tossed the bag, it went out into space, was like, oh, okay. And then let's say he did something else and then it didn't work. Okay. So it would be like seeing him struggle with getting his powers. If we saw them come in a little by little, that would have been more of a journey for us to go on where, at the end, when all of his powers fully manifested, it would have felt like da 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 triumph. But it just didn't. You can't just give your audience everything, no challenge, and expect us to really care. That made my care go all the way down for the character. Plus, I was wondering, I was like, well, you sucked me in with a different story at the beginning. Where are those characters? It was just like a hard There were a lot of things that I just really didn't care for in this story. So, yeah, I won't be watching any more of it. That's that. But what made my author's scene land so beautifully and make me cry, even though I saw it coming from a mile away, she had given us wonderful context. Now, I really reduced a lot, okay? Because I don't want to, I mean, it's one tiny part of the story, so I'm not really giving away much. But there was much fuller, richer context. We really got to see the highs, the lows, and the in betweens between this father and daughter dynamic so that when he passes away, it feels so heavy. We feel exactly what this daughter is going through. And we know her life is not about to be easy in the rest of these pages. And indeed, they were not. Okay. You have got to bring us along the journey with the character. Take us on the journey. Show, don't tell. And if you're writing nonfiction business books and you're telling your own stories, you've got to bring us along with you as well on your journey. Help us see what you saw. Help us feel what you felt. Help us experience. Don't just tell us, show us. Give us dialogue, give us action. Don't keep everything in your head. We do not want any head stories of the most turgid kind over here. And if you know that reference, then baby, you know. Part of what made that scene in my client's book so palpable and emotionally satisfying is that we had enough context. We were able to care about the relationship. We had enough clues that death was imminent. We understood the emotional stakes. We understood the challenges they were already going through. And we could see how his death could complicate things even further. And when we got that conclusion to that mini little story arc, which was his passing, we did, or I did, the only human thing that I could do that was appropriate in that moment. I cried like a baby while smiling at how wonderfully my client wrote that scene. You're going to feel empathy. Another thing that worked really well for that particular scene for my client is that she didn't just tell us that daddy was gone. We discovered daddy was gone the same way the character did. We got up with her morning routine. She was doing what she was doing. And then she noticed, like, oh, daddy's still in the chair. Okay, let's see. Daddy, hey, wake up. Wake up, daddy. I ain't going to act out no more of that. Because you know what that might feel like. But the point is, we went on the journey with the character. And in the Invincible scene, we did not go on the journey of the young man getting his powers. It was just handed to him. That's boring. Speaking of satisfying emotional journeys, I think it's one of the keys to the most recent Spider-Man opening at the box office at nearly $1 billion. And I have to say, my family and I, we contributed to that. Like 8 of us deep went to the movies on Thursday night in celebration of my son's birthday. And We've all been waiting for this particular movie, and it's been so emotionally satisfying as a whole because a lot of the well, I wouldn't say criticism because people have loved all of the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies, but they have also noted and pointed out that his version of Spider-Man lacks a lot of the grit and the get it out of the mud and that type of a journey that the previous movie series have had and the source material the comics have had. Tom Holland's Spider-Man came right into, getting mentorship by Tony Stark and getting all this cool tech and everything like that. And so now in this most recent movie, Brand New Day, he is all of that is stripped away and he is on his own. He doesn't have his aunt, he doesn't have his friends. He's getting it out of the mud. And it's making people react so strongly in a positive way to this story. It's like they're calling it the Spider-Man origin story we've been waiting for like literally 10 years. So the main thing to keep in mind is that audience like to go on the journey with their characters. And if it's a character that's as iconic as Spider-Man and we know, you know, Peter Parker is poor, he doesn't have a great job or whatever, but he does have these great powers and he undertakes these great responsibilities. We want to see the struggle between Peter Parker and Spider-Man. We don't want to see everything be so easy for him. Audiences want to see their heroes journey from the bottom to the top. Winning has to be earned, not given. That is what makes for an emotionally satisfying story. If you were stuck out in the woods somewhere, you would appreciate fire and light and heat and warmth. If you had to literally rub two sticks together and kindling and make a fire, you'd appreciate that fire so much more than what you and I do every single day. We walk into a room and flip, the light goes on, flip, the light goes off. It's too easy. We don't appreciate it. It's normal to us, right? And so it's like, whatever, of course it's light. And that's where context matters. So no matter what type of story you're telling, no matter what genre you're in, no matter what context you're telling your stories in, whether you're writing a nonfiction book, whether you're writing a screenplay, whether you're giving presentations, or you're creating short form videos. If you are storytelling, beware of telling boring stories. Give us great emotional payoffs by allowing us to experience the hero's journey with them. So, in this video, I did give an example of one of my fiction writing clients, but I have more to share about telling stories in nonfiction thought leadership books using other examples from editorial assessments with some of my nonfiction authors. I shared that in this masterclass. I took an example from one of my clients and showed how I would make some changes to make it a more engaging story. So click on this video now so that I can share more with you about how to tell engaging stories. And I'll see you on the other side.